really cool. I gave it a try, and we're testing. So I think in these following weeks we will make the real memberships. But it's really cool. You just make locks, and the person who got access to that lock can have different capabilities on the website. So, for example, there will be people that are teachers, or there will be people that are mediators, and they will have all a different dashboard. So yeah, that's the the update that we have.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, Unlock. I've been hearing about those guys, but I haven't played with it. It sounds well. Maybe we'll learn something from you as you do that. It's cool.
It's super simple. I made some tests with my personal account, but the real ones are gonna be done through the multisig that we have from Gravity.
Cool. And what did you end up deciding for your website? What are you using?
Well, we are running on WordPress, and we have the LearnPress plugin that is from the education to run the course. We have the HubSpot for the ticketing system, and yeah, the unlock is just the memberships, the memberships that work also with a plugin called Paid Memberships Pro that help us to track like and have the information of all the people that is engaging with the page, so that we can also make subscription to newsletters and stuff like that.
Cool. That's cool. All right. Well, we may follow up with you on this later. That's cool. That's cool.
Yes, thank you.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy because my experience as a PM on a web page is null, but we are learning, and yeah, I think we've done good choices on the infrastructure, and now like what is cool is that multiple people can edit the page at the same time, and like all of the teachers can also start editing their course while the course is in coming soon mode still. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, that's great. All right. I am going to share our Clarity agenda. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, we've got enough. Let's go. So for our check-in, I picked one of our sample questions that folks suggested last week. So let's kick it off. What's an interesting job that you've had that might surprise the rest of us? Let's go with Isaac. Do you want to go start? And we can't hear you for some reason if you're speaking. There you go. Yeah, your audio may be having some problems. We'll pass it to Nate. Do you want to go? And then Isaac will check back with you in a second.
Yeah, sure. I've had a lot of really interesting jobs. I guess the most interesting to the outside would probably be that I used to teach at space camp. I used to help with developing the curriculum for teaching kids space history in the United States and NASA, which was a lot of fun. And so being able to be in Huntsville and to be around these, large rockets, the Saturn V, the Mercury Redstone, Gemini, all the great Saturn 1Bs and all that good stuff, and teaching on the history of rockets and space history was a lot of fun. So I think that was probably, my most interesting job, just because it was mixed between education and curation and museums. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Um, yeah, I haven't had any really interesting jobs. I think the job that doesn't sound interesting, but you got to see some interesting things, was I worked in the hospital as a administrator for day surgery. So I got to like witness like eye surgeries and stuff like that. So the job itself didn't sound cool, but what you got to see behind the scenes was kind of cool.
Do you want to pass it to somebody?
And I'll pass it to Bear.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. Yeah, I think I also haven't had any really interesting jobs, but like one that I enjoyed for the context that was in is right after high school. I had a teacher that he really kind of like he really trusted me, and we made like a good relationship during school. So he invited me uh, to help him to be kind of like his right hand in a project he had of opening a small hotel in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So I went there to work for like 7 months, and I was just like in charge of basically everything, like trying to prep everything for the opening of the place, and uh, doing a little bit of construction, but also about hospitality services, and it was really really fun, and everything with his guidance. So it was kind of like a cool experience to have right after high school. And yeah, I'll pass it to Marathon Mine.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, thanks. I have done plenty of jobs, mostly in business development, but I think my last stint was an entrepreneur, where I was one among a few partners. And so I'm a place from Kerala. It's a place in India. So this particular place has a geographical branding for Ayurveda and spices. So we have an e-commerce website. We sell products from based on this branding, these products. Presently contributing just as a consultant, not as a full-time. I think I'll pass it on to Juang.
Thanks. Yeah, my first work was like a family-owned restaurant, and there I also did like a lot of things from marketing to the kitchen and to like also customer service. But I'd say that another cool experience was that I worked at a public university, and this public university had a lot of like conflict between the students and the administrative side, because it was public, and they said that yeah, things were not being well administered, and there I saw how complex relationships can be, and how historically affected relationships are difficult to rebuild in a short time, or even with good intentions. And it was, yeah, nice to see, because I was also like a bridge between the students and the administrative side, and how were like the needs, the demands, and that communication. I think I liked like mediating between those two people. I will pass it to Gideon.
Okay, thanks, Wonka. Oh, actually, Isaac, do you want to try again? Okay. Yeah, we're not hearing. Well, you're muted now, but still not hearing you. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that corrected, because there's going to be some things we're going to need to draw on from you over the course of the meeting. But let's move on. I'll share mine. I've had a lot of weird jobs actually. Right in college, I was one of those people that served these giant grain ships in Portland, like delivering papers and coordinating these giant ships. And then when I was at Microsoft, I sold cars online. We had like a car buying service, and I ran a team that was doing that. So that was really weird, actually. Dealing with a bunch of car dealers across the United States. Okay, so let's do some updates. I will kick it off. Main thing, actually, we're going to talk about some of this stuff. So I got an update on the Token Engineering Academy. I'll just wait on that. Since Isaac is having some issues, I'll mention that we got a ENS small grant up day before yesterday. We're waiting. Tomorrow morning it's going to go live. So we're actually really looking for ENS token holders to help with voting for that starting tomorrow. So if anybody has thoughts on that, actually, that would be really good to know right now. Actually, I'm going to just take a second to just open it up. Does anybody have any thoughts on ENS token holders? I know Griff is one, and he's going to help. Okay, I'll take that as a no, but we're going to just keep an eye out over the next few days, because this is important, because it's not just this small grant. It's I've been working with Eduardo on this, and he's one of the stewards for their public goods grant making at ENS, and he's saying hey, if you guys can start to build some awareness through the small grants, then that opens you up for getting larger grants. So that's going to be important, especially given the academy and the fundraising we're going to need to do around that. Still having some issues getting traction around the strategic plan. So I think that rather than post it up for a vote today, I'm going to wait until Monday so that we have the full period. I just really don't want to post that up there and then not have, given all the work that went into getting feedback from people, I don't want to have that not have, I want to make sure that we get quorum on that. So I'll wait until Monday to post it, and then I'm going to, it's just hard getting engagement on our votes nowadays. So that's going to be the work next week. I think that's about it. Bear, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think we will probably also talk a little bit about my updates that are in terms of the review process, now focusing more in the actual tools that we would be using and how would the process is going to look like, at least in this first version of it. And then also a little bit about what we talked last week, about how could we start defining some outcomes for the different monthly priorities that we have defined, and have some sort of initial idea or initial template that we can, more than a template, understanding kind of the structure, and that people can use to come up with better outcomes that are more traceable and that can still keep us accountable. So that's kind of the two things I've been working on, and that we'll probably talk about it today. And also the coordination team agreement, that one I'm still gathering more input from the police polls from people that couldn't make the call on Tuesday. So once that's done, and if everything went right, if most people agree on it, I think we'll be able to sign it pretty soon. So I think that's going to be a cool step as well. And yeah, I think that's it for me. I'll pass it to you, Nate.
Yeah, thank you. So we had a good update with Isaac and Joseph in Marathon Mind yesterday on the curation service and how we're moving forward with that. It's really become the kind of center priority, which we'll talk a little bit more about regarding the SPI. And so we've kind of shifted gears in terms of just trying to, really put this into motion, stop planning and really just execute on some things and see how it works. So that's currently the update from the SPI side of things. And I will pass it to Isaac if he's there.
I'm guessing he's off trying to fix his audio. So, Juanca, I don't know if you want to. I mean, it sounds like you kind of did give an update on your website. Do you want? Is there anything else you want to just give a quick update on?
Yeah, another small update is that Bianca is going to be representing Gravity in Denver, so we will have some representation there, and we are gonna be making stickers. So we will be also like raising awareness and trying to engage other people from the ecosystem to our project.
Okay, cool. Marathon Mind.
Yeah, I started working on the ABC thread, and yesterday we had a good call regarding the curation service. Shah was able to explain certain things, and yeah, and also excited about the call tomorrow. Nate has organized a call for me, and Joseph regarding repetition systems. And I also tried the GTP for making abstracts. More or less accurate. I tried it manually. Yeah, that's another update I want to give. I'll pass it on to Joseph.
Yeah, so had a very productive meeting on Tuesday regarding what we're going to do with the curation service and stuff like that. So researching for the articles to see if they're going to be relevant or not, whilst what's still carrying on.
Joseph, I'm really sorry. Your audio is kind of cutting in and out, at least for me. Yeah.
All right. Hold on, just to
Maybe,
is that better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So I'll start again quickly. So had a productive meeting on Tuesday, regarding the curation service and where we plan to focus. So I've been researching relevant documents to put in for the curation service. Also, as well as I'm still working on the advert for the interest groups, as well as the navigation page that users are going to be coming to. Just working on the design template for that. So I'm waiting for feedback from. Actually, no, I'm not waiting for feedback from Nick. I'm going to update what I spoke to in regards to Nate, in regards to the two things he's doing in the Senate. And it's about, if anything, I'll pass it on to Bear, if Bear hasn't gone.
Yeah, Bear went, but how about Isaac? You want to give it a try again?
Yeah, let's see. I think it's better now. Can you hear me? Cool, great. My internet is terrible today. I'm calling. I've been calling my ESP a few times, but well, whatever. So quick updates. Nothing new so far. I guess I'll repeat very quickly the update from this Tuesday. So we had a meeting with the Gitcoin folks. They are interested in doing. We are looking into entering one of their sort of next rounds of alpha rounds. So they are planning to have a few organizations in March to do small rounds from 5 to 15K, anywhere around that, where we would, they would hold our hands, and they essentially just hope to have more people outside of Gitcoin to learn how to use the protocol and to give feedback and whatnot. Some functionalities aren't ready yet, and they won't be on the Gnosis chain for the time being, but they are planning. It's on their roadmap. It's just not going to happen right now. Right now, they are deployed in Phantom, Optimism, I think they said, and Ethereum mainnet. And yeah, that's it. It's going to be probably 1 or 2 weeks before we chat again, because they are going to be in December and all of that. But I hope that we have news soon. Oh well, and by the way, we also have to work on a small proposal just so that we have the money for the round set up, and they don't I don't think we want them to wait on us for the grant money. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thanks everybody. All right, so and just real quick, Isaac, the Juana, I think, I'm not sure what her actual name is, but she pinged us in Telegram, so you may want to just reply there, just to keep the conversation going. I don't know if you saw that. All right, here are the things that we're going to cover today. I want to give an update. I can finally start talking about the Token Engineering Academy and what's going on there. So that's good. I want to talk about turning off conviction voting, like the steps that we talked about on Tuesday, and what that's going to entail, moving to DAO voting. And then the other thing is, this will be our first time working on articulating some smart outcomes. So we'll talk about what that means. Bear's done some work on that to show us. And I've started doing mine, but I want to actually take some time in the call so we can just do this live, just for like 10 minutes. And then hopefully we'll have that for next week. Bear's going to give us an update on the review period, a document that he's working on that kind of gives like the overview of how the whole thing works. And then Nate's going to give an update on what's happening with SPI, the pivot that's going on there. And I just want to also just close, we want to talk about communications priorities and just some thinking on that's been distilling over the past couple weeks. And if we have time at the end, just like a check-in on Discord and whether there's any changes we need to make there. So any other important thing that we need to cover today? It's going to be a handful, but anything else? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's go. Yesterday, we had a joint event. Well, it's actually really just a Token Engineering Academy community meeting that was titled the 2023 Roadmap. And in it, Angelo was outlining accomplishments from last year, and then some of the things that they're focusing on that are actually really exciting. I wish Bear, I think you were on the call. I'm really impressed with what they're able to do with so little resources. Like it's actually pretty impressive. So they were outlining some of the stuff that they're focused on, but the reason that Livia and I were there was to be there to announce. Basically, this is what we shared yesterday, that the TE Commons and the TE Academy are planning on merging. We're not sure, sometime this year and next year. So that's the timeline that we're on for doing that. And that as part of that, kind of like from the Academy's perspective, what the real goal is that Angela would really like to have the Academy be community owned and community governed. And, she could try to find some other owner for the Academy, like maybe selling it to a company or something like that. But her goal really is to have this be community owned and governed. So that's exciting and that's cool. And the TEC makes by far and away the most logical sense for that. And then, the third piece of this is basically integrating the economies. So really having the way she described it is TEC token drives activities and value flows. From our perspective, what that means is that really the Academy is going to be the best near-term opportunity for driving token utility for the TEC. I think that the other piece is going to be some of the stuff that we're going to be doing on the Gitcoin voting, because that's exciting too. We'll be able to do some matching with TEC, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on with changes in the way that the Academy is going to work, and we're trying to look at like how we would make, as a first step, TEC be one of the forms of payment, but then possibly down the road making it be the only form of payment. So that would really drive token utility for the TEC. So that's really exciting. We have been, so some of the stuff that we've been working on over the last month or so that I just really couldn't talk about because we were just trying to be careful about this, is legal options. So, the Academy has a bunch of legal requirements because they need the ability to form, to own assets and to contract with other entities. And so we need some type of legal entity. And so we're exploring the options there, ways of, one of the most likely one is a Swiss nonprofit association. So, but that's not the only one. There are lots of different options here. And so we're looking at different structures and how that might work. There's so much, like part of the job here is going to be raising money to actually acquire, so we've got to value the Academy and then actually acquire it. And so we'll be going to the community, but also to the broader field and to large funders to try to get their help in actually not just acquiring the Academy, but also like getting a runway so that it's got like a nice healthy runway for the next year or so. I'm going to stop there and just open it up to any questions from anybody. No? Okay. Well, there will be things that will become a lot clearer over the next few months as we move to the next stages of this, detailing out like what this is going to look like. But I'm personally very excited about this. I think this is going to be great. It will help clarify what we're all doing, and then I think it's also fits really nicely with the strategic framework that I was working on, and we all were talking about over the last month or so. Okay, so if there's no comments or questions at this point, we'll move on to the next topic, which is turning off conviction voting. So this is something. It's not just turning off conviction voting. We talked about this on Tuesday with Griff. It's basically moving over to DAO voting, and so I just outlined, at the end of the call, we talked about like what this might look like. So these are the kind of the 3 high-level steps. And I just want to confirm with you all that this seems like the right 3 steps. And then, if we're assuming we're all in agreement on this, then we'll just lock this down and then just run it by the larger crew on Tuesday just to make sure we're all in sync, because this is kind of this is a significant change. So first step would be make a proposal for the community that explains the rationale for doing this and then what the new approach would be with DAO voting. And I just want to confirm, Nate, you're still on board for writing up that proposal?
Yep, I'm almost done with it actually.
Nice.
And we decided that we were going to change the spending limit. So parameter of the conviction voting. But yeah, this is something that definitely needs community approval, and I think that this is something that's really delicate, and I plan on posting this to the forum by the end of today. So if you want to promote it, please do. shed some light on it to the rest of the community so they can get their input in it.
Okay. Maybe I have some time today if you want to share with me, if you want any feedback before you post it up there. I'm happy to look at it.
For sure. I'm going to send it out to a bunch of people. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. So that's the first step. One other thing related to that, just as some feedback, as I was mentioning with the strategic framework, I think, just in general, getting engagement on votes is tough. And so right now, what I've noticed is that the vote duration for TAO voting is just 5 days. And we're used to voting on funding proposals taking months, in some cases. So doing that in a 5-day period, I don't know if that's actually feasible, just given the kind of engagement that we have in the community right now. So I'll just throw that out as something that Nate, I think would be good to highlight in the proposal as a question, and maybe we propose a longer period there.
Yeah, I think this is actually kind of something that I wanted to get resolved a little bit, probably before this post goes up, is that, we do have some decisions that we would like to have within that 5-day period that shouldn't have to go through the same rigorous standards, but now we're applying both the funding proposals and smart contract alterations with under the same framework. And so that's a little bit of a concern in a lot of ways. And it's something that we need to just kind of collectively review again, the TAO voting parameters, because these parameters were selected by the community. And so this is something that we really have to do correctly. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of a tricky thing. I totally agree, because the TAO voting, some of these things, it's intentionally fast, because I think part of it is countering attacks or countering some kind of emergency that the community was facing. I mean, I remember having those conversations, but by the same token, 5-day votes for funding may be tough. So,
I think we can work around those things in multiple ways, because if time is the issue because of engagement, there's probably some other ways where we can raise engagement prior to the on-chain vote. But just like you said, timing with on-chain is very delicate, because if it's too long, then becomes first a risk to the TEC, because I don't know, anyone would be able to even change things just with votes waiting. And on the other hand, if anything happens and we need a quick action, we wouldn't be able to. So finding, I guess, I don't know, if community or social ways to engage prior to the on-chain vote would be probably the best way.
yeah. I think, this will be a lot trickier than we think, as my guess. It's going to be, because it's like a cultural change, and it's really an operational change. So, yeah.
I mean, honestly, if we keep everything the same, nothing has really changed. People have always been able to set up a proposal on TAO voting for money within the common pool. It's just that wasn't the way of doing things. But now, since conviction voting's gone, people may look at that as the option, and that's where we kind of run into issues. Because I can put a proposal right now for funds in the common pool through TAO voting, and we would have the same parameters that work right now. And so the one thing that I worry about is if we do change it, it's really about the proposal process and making sure that we kind of clearly articulate that if you go through the TAO voting for this, we will push very, very hard to reject it in a way that if you don't go through the proper channels. I think that's the best way to mitigate these things. But in terms of the way we've been doing things, nothing has really changed. So it's just a matter of getting conviction off and culturally saying, hey, if you want to have a proposal for funds in the common pool, this is the process you go through. And so, yeah, I think that's just something I wanted to add.
I think something. Well, I don't want to take a lot of time here, but something that I think it's worth exploring or mentioning on the proposal is that we are looking into other ways to allocate funding, and so probably the primary way for people to ask for money from the TEC is not the common pool. Maybe the common pool is kind of restricted to more advanced or to I don't know, for certain or bigger things, and then we try to direct people through other ways if they want to ask for funding. I think that would probably make more sense and be less of a risk, which is quite frankly what pretty much every single big DAO is doing right now. Most of them don't have direct access to the funds via on-chain voting.
Yeah. I mean, actually, this fits with what we're planning on doing with the small grants program, right? So basically, it would be driving more. So it would be like big projects like Token Engineering Academy, like the coordination team funding, seasonal funding, things like that. We would coordinate this way, and then we would also be like funding the small grants program too. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think all of that is worth trying to highlight, Nate, in succinctly, just like noting that like this would be a big change in the way that the way that we fund things out of the common pool. And so, yeah, we just need to call that out. And then the other thing I just want to call out is, we do have now the token gate. And with that, we have some ability to notify token holders about proposals that need to be passed. And it may be that we start investing in like better processes for notifying people. We just have to be careful not to spam. Okay. So that's the first step, is basically making the proposal to the community. We're working on that right now. Then deciding who will handle the Tau voting proposals when they come through. As you're saying, Isaac, like it may not be that big of a deal, because there may not be that many of them really. So it may, but I think we need at least a couple people here who have been like, we need to cross-train a couple people on how to do these proposals using DAO voting, and so that we're ready to go when we actually turn off conviction voting. And Isaac, do you think that's something? Can you own that?
Sure.
Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. You guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to. I'm thinking maybe something we can work on as well is try to have Sam or Griff or Mitch in a few weeks to do a quick AVM CRISPR tutorial or something like that. But yeah, it shouldn't be hard. I can take it. No worries.
Okay. So, and then the final step is basically turning off conviction voting. And so, Isaac, can you take that too and basically working? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. 2 and 3 are kind of the same. I mean, it's not the same, but it's like we would probably do it around the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, you guys noted the spending 0 thing. Probably the best option according to Sam. Okay. All right. So I think we have a plan that seems pretty solid. Like in reality, I think the hardest thing is actually a proposal and explaining this, and then explaining kind of like what our new process looks like. Okay. Any last comments on this before we move on? Nate, Isaac, anybody else?
I mean, I guess I need to bring this up because I do think that and I don't want to get lost in this conversation, but just something for all of us to think about is just, moving to this kind of restrictive policy towards governance. It does reduce the amount of decentralization we have in token engineering commons, which is something that we discussed about doing as being very important in terms of kind of being a catalyst to becoming more productive. But it's one of those slippery slope type things where it's just like we don't need to forget that we want to have as many token holders being represented within these types of decisions and voting as humanly possible. And I just think that there's certain steps that go towards limiting that potential, and just to tread carefully.
So I'm not so sure that I agree, but I need to understand that better. From talking to Griff about this yesterday, one of the problems with conviction voting is that it doesn't allow quadratic voting, and but that's I don't think we could actually implement quadratic voting, and we could actually implement some type of reputation token to kind of like balance token holding with reputation, which might mitigate some of what you're talking about, Nate. So I guess this kind of gets us into the whole reputation thing, which is a bigger topic, but I think also this is the pathway to having community votes be perhaps less what's the word I'm looking for? Plutocratic, like less driven by like token ownership and more like actual expertise in the field.
Yeah, and I think that's just, I just wanted to highlight the potential of that these things happening, because like that in combination with a bunch of other small aggregate things like the reduced amount of TEC token distribution through praise and rewards, and then people, the unlock happening, people selling off their TEC, more aggregated power into fewer hands, and so on and so forth. All these things kind of contribute to the overall like further centralization of decision making within the TEC in terms of this broad vote. And so we can have decentralized structures and still be very centralized in terms of decision making power. And so I just wanted to just make sure that this is on the minds of people when we go through these types of things, because it is very, very important that we keep that in the front of our minds.
Yeah, but I think we do really need to be careful and very pragmatic about how we do stuff or how we think of stuff, because quite frankly, there's many things we've done that we haven't even really analyzed, and we don't even know if the outcomes that they provide are the desired outcomes. So like you say, praise, but if you look at numbers, first of all, one of my biggest critiques of praise is that we don't know what's the goal. And even without proper metrics, if you look at any numbers with regards to distribution or anything, it hasn't had like a tremendous impact. And so I guess my point is things I think things are a reflection of where we are. And the TC hasn't done a good job, and thus nothing else is working, and we are going back to centralization because not everyone is willing to take a part on something that's not working. Important to have in mind, but it's more important that this work than it's. I would rather have this work than this being decentralized.
Yeah. Well, it's no coincidence that we're looking at this at the same time that we're looking at the small grants program, and it's no coincidence that we're also starting to talk about different dimensions of reputation. Actually, the stuff that Angela is doing around reputation and the badges and like proof of knowledge really interesting. And I guess the way that I see this is, yeah, there is some risk, especially as token holders potentially sell off with the end of the freeze. So yeah, we have to keep an eye on that. And also there's an opportunity, I think, over the course of this. It's so funny. This is exactly what I was talking with Griff about yesterday. Like, there's a big opening for us to focus on reputation and kind of using that as a way to protect against potential attacks from somebody coming in and buying up a bunch of TEC. So anyway, I think we just need to. The point is well taken, Nate. It's like, yeah, there's an opening here. We need to be very careful, and we can't just go to sleep here. Like, over the course of this year, we really need to figure out how to make this decentralized, and I would love to see us do that by focusing more on reputation and expertise. But that's going to take some work. Okay, any last comments? Thoughts here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. All right. So we're gonna do a little bit of. No, you know what? I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. Let's take this time. Bear, do you want to do before we dive into the March outcomes? Do you want to walk us through the review period, and then Nate, I think it would be good for you to give an update on SPI, just so everybody's in sync on that as we're thinking about our the March priorities. So, Bear, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'll just share here in the chat the document for everyone to take a look at. And yeah, well, basically the idea is, or it has been to come up with an actual process for how is this review period, or at least part of it, gonna look like. So for this first phase that I'm been focusing on for February, the focus has been on individual evaluation, role evaluation, and a little bit of self-development.
Hey, Bear, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can somebody else share the screen? Because I am taking notes as we go. So it just in general, if somebody can volunteer, when somebody else is sharing the screen, or somebody's got a doc up, can somebody else share it, and then I can take notes still.
You post the link in the chat.
Yeah, it's on the chat here. The link, just posted it. Thank you, Nate.
Okay, give me 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Well, in the meantime, I can just like kind of like keep explaining the overall idea. So yes, it's a process that we could start using, trying to keep it really, really simple, and where we are integrating a couple of different tools that we'll go through it right now. So it's 7 steps. The first step, it's about defining the evaluation criteria. So what are we going to evaluate during this, let's say, time period? We can just focus on defining the purpose of the actual evaluation. So for this first phase, like I said before, the purpose is individual accountability, reviewing and improving roles, and trying to review and improve organizational processes that we have set in place. So that's kind of like the broad purpose of this first phase. In the future, that might change. That might become more specific in regards with different areas that people are working on, as they require different skills and different types of expertise. Then the evaluation criteria will adapt to that. But to achieve that, it gets a lot more complex really easily. So I think that might be more in a medium to long term time frame that we can achieve something like that. And for now, we can just keep it a little bit more general, but hopefully still pretty effective. The second step is just gathering input from multiple tools that we're going to be using. There's going to be 3 tools as for today, 2 surveys and 1 template. The template, calling it role self-review, it's the template that I showed last week to be able to review the current roles that you own and be able to do quick changes and quick improvements to it, as well as trying to assess yourself whether you completed the different tasks and activities that were stated on it during the month or during the specific period of time. So that's kind of like the purpose of that tool. You can click on it if you want to look at an example of it with one of my roles. Marathon Mind is also using it to evaluate his content curation operator role. So it's pretty simple to use. You just copy and paste from Clarity the role that you have in one of the tabs. You have like up to 7. I don't think anyone has more than 7 roles. So you just copy and paste it, and then you just go through the column, the first one to check if you actually completed the work that was stated or not. Pretty straightforward. And then there's another one if you want to do any changes to the role. So if there's nothing you want to change, you just select approved. If there's something you wanna adjust, you click review, and you make the change on the next column. Then the other 2, if we go up to the other 2 tools, the self-assessment and the contributor evaluation surveys, those are basically surveys. They are made out of all the different already existing surveys that communities like Giveth and General Magic are using. So everything is based on those, and I just took them all together and started like organizing them and prioritizing the different questions that I think could adapt to our circumstances and to our context. The self-assessment, it's basically that, right? To self-assess yourself in regards with the way you're working, the way you're feeling, taking part of the team, a little bit more of a introspectual kind of like exercise and reflective exercise on your time and on your experience as a member of the team. And the contributor, the self-assessment, sorry, it's a little longer. Right now it has, I don't remember exactly how many questions, but probably more than 20. And then the contributor evaluation, it's more of a peer review kind of survey. So we can review each other and we can evaluate each other in terms of our performance, in terms of our work ethics, in terms of our teamwork, in terms of just simply as how have we been working and behaving as a member of the team. So if we go back to the main document outlining the process, you can see there that well, one for the contributor evaluation, we are suggesting that at least 2 members evaluate someone else. So there's at least 2 surveys per person made. Also trying to not to leave to make this pretty like time consuming and a little bit exhausting for people. So it should be two people evaluating each. And these people, for now, I'm thinking that could be selected just randomly. Maybe in the future we come up with a better process in defining who can evaluate who. But there's a lot of complicated questions to define that it can get really tricky really easily. So for now it's just like that. Then if we jump to the next step, compile and review feedback. Me as the accountability read role, I would be taking all the different results that come up from these 3 different tools and just gathering all together, organizing them. It's important to mention that in this point, and me as the accountability lead, I wouldn't be providing any additional feedback or any judgment on the results that I get. That the goal here is only just to organize and to compile all the results from the 3 different tools. In the next step, number 4, the idea is to come up with some sort of comprehensive report that encompasses all these different results from the areas and the purpose of it, to have something that we can present with that feedback to the person that was evaluated. This is still a work in progress on how this report is actually going to look like, and I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end here. Then the next step is figuring out, coming up with the best process to actually provide the feedback to the person, as that can be maybe just sending out the report, or maybe having a one-on-one, or having a groupal exercise or a groupal call where we all share the feedback we've received. This is I think this is where things can start becoming really sensitive for people, because we start dealing with things about privacy, and or if people want to remain anonymous, and things that could make people feel a little uncomfortable. So I think we'll need to take our time on really defining this. Right now, these steps, especially from the 4, 5, 6, and 7, are still not fully defined. Because of that, I feel that we'll need to go through this exercise of using the tools and seeing how we feel, and then from that we can start adjusting and coming up with better processes. Then the last 2 steps, number 6, determine next steps. That's basically based on the feedback and based on all the results, what decisions are going to be made, what changes are going to be made, how are we going to improve things. That's actually like the main goal of this evaluation, right? And then the last step is just a follow-up, to make sure that these changes or these improvements that we made are actually having a positive impact and are actually working as they should. And that's basically it. So as you can see, I like to think that it's kind of like a simple process, but it can also become really sensitive really easily and complex at the same time. So for now, what I'm proposing as the idea for this first phase is that we start simply by using the different tools that we're proposing here, really paying attention on how that goes, how we all feel, what results do we get, and based on that, start taking the next steps. That would be basically coming up with some sort of report. Once we achieve that and we have the actual reports done, then again, based on all the experience that we went through, try to come up with the best way in which we can deliver that feedback and provide that feedback to the different members evaluated. So just kind of like splitting it between different chunks that we can start playing with, like baby steps into this direction. Because yes, I think because it's a delicate, really delicate situation. So I think take it slow and be really open to listen. And again, I've always repeated this, but this document, this process, even the tools are completely flexible for changes and for improvements and for the opinion that people have. This is not set in stone at all. This is something to be evolving constantly and improving constantly. And like I said, this is probably more of a medium long-term thing that we'll have to keep working on. For example, for March, that the next phase, I'm thinking on working more in terms of the team accountability. Although I'll be focusing on that, I'll be also reviewing this current process and this current phase, trying to make it better, right? And then the following month on April, we'll be reviewing again everything that we've done so far and trying to make it better. So it's just a constant loop of improvement for this. And yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. Probably it was a lot. You have the document if you wanna read it on your own time, and you can still leave comments or any feedback that you'd like to share. But yeah, I think I'll open the floor now if people have anything else to say.
Yeah, I just want to say this is amazing work there. This is completely needed, and I think if this is done correctly, it can bring a lot of accountability to this team in general. I would say that my feedback on this is the number 5. To avoid those kind of delicate situations, I think it'd be really interesting to put like some type of variation to the buddy system that has been used previously in other communities, to where the person who's being evaluated and getting feedback gets to select who provides that feedback. So there's this kind of a contractual consent to saying, hey, this is the person that I want to hear feedback from. And it's their responsibility to evaluate the reports that have been provided in previous steps, and to say, okay, this is my feedback to you on improvements and things like that. And so that way you have somebody that you pre-approve of to provide you that feedback, and you understand that it's their responsibility and their job to do so, and that feedback that is given can be evaluated by another group of people to make sure that it's all aligned and okay. So I think that's it's a really great system you've put together here, and I really like the flow chart. So thanks, man.
Yeah, that's a really good point, a really good idea, Nate. Yeah, the body system, it's been in my mind a lot. Like I know that they use it a lot. There's some things that I like. There's some things that I don't like much. But like you said, maybe having some variation of it could help us with this. So for sure, yeah, let's figure out the best process for that. And I'm just reading here, like Joseph's question: what are the criteria for evaluating people's role? And so for roles right now, I think we are going to be evaluating it from 2 different fronts. The more direct one is the self-assessment role, the self-review role, templates, and that one, it's kind of like it's going to be interesting because we are leaving the whole responsibility of the evaluation of the role to the role owner themselves, right? So it's kind of like, you have the chance, you have the opportunity to evaluate yourself against the role that you currently have. That could go 1 or 2 ways, right? Or you say the truth and you're honest with what you actually did, or you don't, right? And you just state something that you didn't actually complete it. That's the risk with it. But I think it's still worth to try it that way, because in parallel through the contributor evaluation survey, I think we'll be able to have the opportunity for others to see your work, to evaluate your work, maybe not directly in regard with the actual role that you have or the specific activities you have, but more in a general way, at least for now, in terms of, are you completing what you promised? Do you commit with the deadlines that you have? Are you easily to work with, are you constantly communicating your updates with the rest of the team? So I'm hoping that the mix of these tools help us kind of like have a better criteria for in this case for evaluating roles. Ideally, like I said before, in the future, I would like to be able to have like more specific criteria for the specific roles that someone has, and be able to evaluate that. For example, like someone that has something to do with communications. Well, how many people did you reach during this time? And that's like an actual metric that we could have for the role that people need to reach, right? And that will help us, that will give us a lot of more information and a lot of more context in terms of people actually doing the work. But to do that, yeah, I think it's a lot of work, but it's on the, we can say it's on the roadmap, it's on the plans to achieve that. So yeah, I don't know if I was able to answer your question, Joseph.
I just want to follow up on Joseph. Actually, I have two things. One is a clarifying question there, and then the other is to follow up on Joseph's question. So, do you want to walk people through what you're thinking in terms of what the time flow of this would look like? Like, how frequent would this be happening for each of these components?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, thank you, Gideon. That's a really important question. So initially, my idea was that we could probably have these review periods every quarter, right? Every 3 months. But then while defining the tools and while listening to what people has been saying and the way we're organizing ourselves, I realized that maybe the best is to keep it really flexible and modular in a way that maybe every month we use the role self-review tool to review roles constantly, right? Because maybe that's something that requires people to make quicker changes, or that we maybe have new people coming in and they're taking on roles and we need to adapt to that, right? So I feel that becomes more of a frequent type of process that we need to take on. But maybe, for example, the self-assessment, that it's more reflective, that takes more time, that it's more, you need to take your time to complete. Maybe we do that, like every 3 months, every quarter, or every at the end of the season, So right now I'm not fixing any time frames for any of the tools or for this process itself. What I want to do is, again, give it a try, start by this month, and maybe, yes, we go through the different tools, and then based on that experience, define what we feel is the best time frame to keep using these tools in the future, right? So right now, just keeping it open, trying it out, and then defining the time frames.
Okay, and then I have one more question, if that's okay, because I also want to give space for others. So I'm looking at the role, the self-review on the role. I'm wondering whether, rather than having like work done, incomplete or done, whether it's worth having some type of rating there. Where it's not just like done or not, but like, how would you rate yourself? Did I do this piece very effectively? Like maybe a 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 kind of thing. And then the second piece of this is, this is putting a lot of trust on people to self-monitor. And so, I think that's okay if the consequences of not being honest here are heavy. Like if, let's say that somebody comes through here and like they're going for 3 months with just saying like, yeah, I'm good, I'm like a 5 out of 5 on all these things, and then the rest of the team's looking at it and going like, Not really, actually, you know, and not only are you not doing a great job on these roles that you've agreed to do, but you're actually trying to make it look like you're doing a good job, you know. So on the accountability front, like, I guess with great power comes great responsibility. So how do we tighten that feedback loop? That's my question.
Yeah, super important what you're mentioning. Yeah, that's kind of like what I meant with it can go one or two ways, right? It is kind of like a dangerous situation that we would be getting through. So part of the whole roadmap of these review periods, like I showed during last week's call with the map, is to, after this, come up with also some sort of process or document in this case that we still need to find the best way to name. Again, I think it's going to be a really delicate situation, but that in summary has to do with sanctions, right? With sanctions that we as a team define, that we agree on, and that are going to be applied to specific cases or to specific people where things are when things, you know, just don't work, that they get out of hand, that they are not having a positive impact, right? So defining that, designing that, it's also part of the next phases coming up. We also don't want to make it, again, too complex, but we do want to make it effective, right? That things that what you're mentioning, Gideon, don't happen, right? And this is a key component as well, because this is what actually will allow us to scale whenever we have more people coming in and collaborating and working together. It will become harder to track who is doing what and if they're actually doing the work, right? So if we are able to have a clear set of rules and sanctions that people need to follow, then I think we're defining the boundaries, the limits around our work. And if someone goes out of those limits, then we will know what to apply and we'll know what to do, right? So yes, that's answering your question. That's also part of the next steps that we're going to be taking.
I want to say something, and is that yeah, all this connects to Ostrom's principles, and we've done some previous work on this. So if you want to like incorporate some of this previous work to maybe work again on this, maybe yeah, I will be happy to also contribute. We made this concept that is like a conflictometer, and this talks like the scale of conflict, and this is like small scales conflicts, mid scale conflicts, and big scale conflicts, and what action can be considered um, um, bigger or smaller in the sense of like affecting the community or an individual member, and how there are also some suggested actions to match those behaviors, and all that is something that we did on the cultural build when we were studying Ostrom. And Ostrom is beautiful because it's like how a system has to take decisions every time, and how there are always expectations and costs, and yeah, this is in one of the old the soft governance and culture mirror board. So I think we already have something on this in the TEC, but this can be reviewed. And I as Gravity, this is something that we care a lot, because all that you say of monitoring also needs somehow trust, and sometimes we don't talk very much about trust, but that's a foundation for relationship, and also that here we work a lot with reputation, that it can be quantified and tokenized, but the reputation is like, okay, who are you and what are you trying to do? For example, and I've been reflecting about this on Gravity this past days, that I feel that Gravity is moving and that we want to deliver, but really the only one putting pressure on this is myself. No one is like making any monitoring on this besides the mutual monitoring that we have. That is also something that Ostrom talks about. And yeah, I like how also this connects back to some of the routing that we had in the TEC.
Something.
Yeah, that's also right. Andy, go ahead.
Well, something I just wanted to say very quickly, and it's more with regards to phrasing, I guess. Something that I would like to see is in incentivizing good behavior instead of disincentivizing bad behavior. So, of course, there's going to be some very exceptional things where we may need sanctions, but if we could, for example, try to structure this so that there's incentive to do good instead of, that the emphasis is on doing good instead of um, being sanctioned because of something you did bad. I think would be nicer, and because I personally think that framing matters. So, for example, we have part of the compensation structure now is with the projects and all of that. Maybe the access to the two projects acts more like a bonus, and it's dependent on these reviews and all of that. But becomes an incentive to do good instead of a punishment for doing bad. Just that.
Yeah, no, that's great, great feedback and great comments from both of you, Juanca and Enti. Juanca, yes, like all of these Ostrom's ideas, yeah, I agree. I think it all relates with each other, and I think that's really cool. So, yeah, definitely, if we can work on this together, I think that'd be cool to get people's input and to get your opinion on all of this. Because there's work that has already been done, right? So I think it's important to take advantage of that. And Isaac, yeah, in regard to what you're saying, 100% agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I think that incentivizing good behavior, I think that's key. And that's why also like on the review periods, like one of the pillars of them, it's like supporting contributors and incentivizing them, right? Because I do agree with it, and that's why also like going with the point that you made of oh sorry, I lost track of my idea. Yeah, of framing the language. Sanctions, for example, it's a powerful word, right? It's not something that should be taken like pretty lightly. So really taking the time to be able to frame and to use the adequate vocabulary to all of this, it's really important. And I do agree that looking at from those lens of trying to incentivize good behavior instead of like punishing bad behavior, it's a whole new different thing. So yeah.
I've been thinking a lot in that, and I like transformative actions because you can also have a transformative action for good and also for like it can be soft and hard, and also that this comes back to one of the first ideas that we had also was to have somehow, yes, softer actions. And it's not like graduated sanctions, but like graduated transformative actions, because a transformative action is not something bad, can be something out of love, and can be something effective, can be something friendly. It doesn't have to be always related to conflict. Yeah.
I just want to add, like, I think that setting up good incentives is, yes, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. But if I'm looking at the landscape of how things have done, good incentives have never been that powerful in terms of preventing bad behavior. And the one thing I'm trying to get out of this is to say that we can't be afraid to have difficult conversations with each other. We need to normalize it. To me, that is the most important thing here, is normalizing criticism constructively, normalizing kind of this feedback review process, normalizing sanctions, like to be like, hey, you're on warning, and knowing that this is not a bad thing. Me accepting that being on warning is not a bad thing, or having this process of like saying, okay, this is just part of the process. Maybe I just had a rough month. Maybe I had a bad leg of things. But we can't be effective in terms of the aspects of having these kind of graduated sanctions without having difficult conversations. And we need to be very, very good at having difficult conversations if we want to be effective as a community. And so I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in this discussion as well.
Yeah, can I jump in there for a sec? I resonate with everything that everybody's saying. I think appreciative, like one way of describing this is appreciative inquiry. I'm a big believer. If anybody who knows me and has worked with me, you know that I use appreciative inquiry. Like if you think about my interactions with you, like I'm always trying to focus on like what's the positive part, how do I emphasize that, and then so I think that's super important culturally. Start there. But I just also really want to echo what Nate is saying here. It's no accident that the number 5, in Ostrom's principles, number 5, she doesn't duck around this whole thing about graduated sanctions. She calls it out. It's the only way to prevent a commons from being extracted, is to have some type of way of being able to actually prevent it. It's like, so I think that, I've done a lot of leadership classes and things like that. And the best one I ever did was the Rockwood training in actually near you, Nate. There's like a Rockwood leadership program. And one of the things that they trained us on, and it's really hard, but it's having difficult conversations. It's a skill. And I think that being able to provide each other with honest feedback and getting really good at doing that is the only way, really, that we can self-manage. Because if we don't learn how to do this, we're kind of screwed. I mean, to be crass about it, like it's, without having a hierarchy, like a management hierarchy, it becomes very difficult to do this. So I think we all need to become comfortable at being able to confront difficult situations, and actually have and be fine with having graduated sanctions. It's critical to this community, even if that's not what we emphasize, but like knowing that it's there. It's one of the things that actually is missing in the TEC right now. And that's part of the drive behind this, even though that's not maybe how we lead it, and that's not how we position it, or the framing, but having that there as like a very obvious thing, I think I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, no, I as well. I think I resonate with everything that everyone is saying, and for me, it does sound like it's not an easy issue to tackle, right? It does sound pretty complex, as it has different fronts that we need to consider. But at the same time, I think it's a huge opportunity, and it really excites me to listen you all the different opinions that you are providing to this, and trying to make this conversation more rich, more necessary, and also like acknowledge it, right? Because like Nate was saying, you know, like normalizing these type of topics, these type of conversations, I think it's crucial for just not for us, but for the whole kind of like DAO Web3 space, right? If we want to do things in a different way, like Gideon was saying, like without management or without hierarchical structures, we need to figure this out, right? So although it might be challenging, I do think it's completely worth it. And yeah, I hope that collaboratively, like all together, we can come up with something that is useful for us, and we can maybe in the future replicate as well to other places, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a really interesting journey to take on. And yeah, I think that's all for me. If there's not any other comments or anything, I think I'll pass it back to you, Gideon, so we can keep going.
Okay. I have to say once again, Bear, this is awesome work. This is difficult stuff, man. It's really like it's DAO, it's like working with a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, and kind of a decentralized non-hierarchical structures. What does the future of work look like? Jeez. So super hard, super difficult, and you have just done an amazing job of plowing through this and continuing to make progress, keep us moving forward. I really appreciate it. Okay, so next topic, Nate. Actually, Nate, do you think you could do your update on SPI in like 10 minutes? Is that possible, or do you need a little bit more time than that?
Yeah, I can do it unless you like. If you have more important things to do, I can do even quicker. But it's up to you.
I think it's important. I'm trying to do is leave like 20 minutes to like dive into the March outcomes, and then we can do the communication stuff next time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Hey, decentralized SDGs. Good to see you, man. Good
to see you. And greetings from Denver. Just got in.
Oh, nice. I'll have fun. We're just going over our SPI, our Shelling Point Initiative right now. So we've taken a little bit of a pivot in terms of the priorities within the SPI. We are focusing on less planning and more doing. So this Friday, tomorrow, we at 10 a.m. we're going to have our first kind of reputation open research group meeting. And this is going to be just basically whoever wants to come, but right now it's just Marathon Mind and Joseph and I, and we're going to be submitting articles to the curation service. The big focus here with the SPI is to really center our efforts around the development of the curation service, and to, at the same time, try to bootstrap some of these interest and research groups that are interested in actually developing. And so what we're going to plan on doing is having these types of submission parties. So basically on Fridays, we will have a time to submit articles to the curation service. And at the end of each Friday, we will go, the Marathon Mind, Joseph and I will go through and pick out some of the contributors' submissions. And we will ask them to present these submissions on our Twitter Spaces. So that's the second part of our efforts, is that we're going to start having Twitter Spaces on a weekly basis where we review the articles submitted by others and let them get the opportunity to speak their mind on it, to kind of review what they've learned, and to kind of just promote the idea of what an open research group is and what it means to be a part of one. And so this is the big effort that we have within the SPI right now, is to kind of just model this type of method where we have meeting and Twitter Spaces. It simultaneously improves our communication with the outside token engineering community, as well as invites them to come to our Discord and to contribute to the Knowledge Commons. So that's the biggest shift we have. Also talking with Good Dollar and Gian about starting their open research group, where they'll have a sub-DAO that is focused on UBI. So this is going to be another research group that we're going to try to test it out with, and see if they're interested in incorporating the curation service as well. So at the end of the day, what we want to have is to really narrow down this curation service to have this database of knowledge, token engineering knowledge that is curated on the back end. And I don't know if Marathon Mind, you have put some thought into the process of curation, and I don't know if you have anything to add here or want to talk about, but I'll give you this space to do so.
Well, I think we had a discussion yesterday. I think, I think this covers. I'm also excited about tomorrow's call and see how it works out.
Yeah.
So Nate, you so right now, what you've got? What are the focus areas that you're in terms of like topics?
In terms of the interest groups and research groups?
Yeah.
Active, we'll have a voting system interest group, a reputation open research group, and then possibly a research guild with the UBI, with the Good Dollar folks. And so we're going to try to test out each one of these types of groups that could exist within the SPI and see how they operate. It'll be interesting to promote these and see how it goes, but one of the big focuses that we want to do is try to bootstrap these types of groups, and getting attention around it is a big part of that. And so we think the kind of article submission and Twitter space review session will be a big part of that. And yeah, I don't know, Joseph, if you have anything to add to that as well.
No, nothing really to add. Just defining my own personal way of streamlining the perfect articles in terms of in order to contribute to the actual creation process on Friday. And I think once we go through the first and second iteration of it, it'll become easier, and we'll definitely we'll be definitely able to like refine, especially with regards to like the Twitter Spaces, refining maybe time and the way to actually go about it and stuff like that. That's what I want to add.
Yeah. And so go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off if you had anything to add. Okay, well, I'll just close it off with the fact that the whole idea behind this is to get more engaged with the token engineering community through these interest and research groups, and to simultaneously build up the curation service, a database of token curated knowledge. And so what we'd like to see happen is each of these groups to have their own submission parties to focus on their own work in their own time, but also to have submission parties and to be highlighted within the Twitter Spaces. And so I see us having multiple Twitter Spaces every week that represent these different groups and that kind of bring people closer together in terms of open collaboration within the token engineering community.
So Nate, just to clarify, you're going to start with one submission party per week that will be basically everybody, and then the idea is as that grows, then people will break off and do their own. The different interest groups will break off and do their own submission parties.
That's exactly right. So we're going to have the first one with the reputation system, and so people, if you look on our Share It channel, Joseph has already submitted quite a long one, so he might have a good amount to review on Monday when it comes to the Twitter Spaces. But when it comes to reputation systems, we'll start posting reputation featured articles. And then, after people submit and we start building up a community around the reputation and people who are interested in participating in this, we'll go through and kind of highlight each member's submissions and give them an opportunity to share their thoughts on it, to kind of promote their interests and be featured within our Twitter Spaces, featuring that particular niche subject. And so this goes along with anybody who wants to start an interest group around voting systems, TE data analytics. We want to be able to frequently engage with the token engineering community, as well as build up a common knowledge base around these particular subjects within the field of token engineering. And so this is going to be, instead of, I could plan this all out, but really it's just about going out and doing it and seeing how it works and just iterating on it over and over again. And so tomorrow we're going to have the first submission party. Anybody is welcome to come join. Go look for a reputation article online, Google Scholar, whatever you want to find, whatever that piques your interest or that you find interesting or want to share. Come and submit it on the workspace, talk about it with the group, and then we will have a Monday Twitter Spaces to actually feature these types of articles and share with the broader TE community who wasn't present. So yeah, and to just teach a little bit more about the SPI. So that's the focus right now.
Okay, that's great. Anybody have any actually, one of the things I just want to pile on here is that I'm really starting to see so we have like financial common pool resource, right? So like there's the common pool, right, our money, but I'm starting to see that the knowledge commons, like a knowledge graph, a token engineering knowledge graph, could very well be the next common pool resource for the TEC. So one of the important frames for what this crew is doing is that, like helping to build that knowledge commons by starting with like a few subdomains like reputation and voting systems. Rather than trying to tackle the world of token engineering, just like focus on some subgraph of the knowledge. So I'm really excited about this new direction. I think it's cool. Any other comments?
I have idea or suggestion. So the academy has the writers guild, and so with this, I think that would probably be something. And now that the collaboration and all of that is not only confirmed but public, there may be that may be the perfect way to do some small collaborations between the both communities, because the writers guild is pretty much based on reputation and putting your name out as a writer or in sharing stuff on their Twitter. And so maybe these dynamics are something that both people can sort of play in and from us, take advantage of what the academy has already built, and for the academy is a new offer is doubling down on building reputation for the people that are part of that guild. So I think it's worth at least asking Angela if that's a possibility.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah. I think one of the things that would be good is maybe we might invite Angela to one of our sessions to just talk a little bit about the reputation stuff that they're doing, because I think we could learn a lot from their success on that, and start using otter space badges for more of what we're doing. But let's follow up on that later. Nate, thank you for the update. That's great. And let's turn to our March priorities, okay? Because we really need to get folks hammering on this over this next week, so that in March we've got some clear goals that each of us can be working from. So what we want to try to do, there's like this old school way of doing this. Maybe there's like a better way of doing it nowadays, but basically Bear, I think this is still pretty relevant. Bear's using this SMART criteria, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And you can see there's a link here to basically a project that Bear's put together. I'll link to it right now so you can see it. We don't need to go into the details of this, but it'll give you a sense of like what this could end up looking like. So he's broken out this this phase one. This is the self-development role in self-development. So this is review periods, falls under the review periods project. And so he's basically kind of broken it out by these outcomes. And if you just read some of these, it'll give you a taste for how this might look. Within a month, it's outlining what the components are. The idea is so that at the end of the month, you can look at this and go like, did I actually do this or did I not actually do this? Really know with some some degree of confidence that you actually did what you said you were going to do. So what I wanted to do is just use our remaining time today to you can either do this live on the Clarity doc. I'll put a link in for those who don't have it right now. You can do it live on the Clarity doc, or you can just do it in your own space. And here's what I basically just copied what we were talking about last week. I didn't even clean it up. But these were some of the priorities that we were talking about last week for. Oh, geez. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I think what would be great is let's just use this time period to do work ourselves. And if you need some help or if you want some feedback, you can ask for it over the next 15 minutes. Probably not. I don't know if we want to do this going forward, but it's just like it's a way for us to use this time together to actually just get this done. And Juanca and decentralized SDGs, sorry to do this to you. It's probably not the most interesting for you guys, but I think it's just a way that it's kind of, we've got to try this out. We're still learning. This is like the first time we've actually done the outcomes. So please bear with us. You're welcome to stick around or take off suits. And actually, decentralized SDG, it'd be great to. I would love to know, like at some point, it'd be great to like just sync up and just see what you do, and like if there are ways you can plug in or you're interested in plugging into what's going on here.
Yeah. I've been a little intermittent absent, so I'm trying to like sort of part of. Yeah, definitely re-engage. I've been following on the Discord. I was just looking actually at the new document you'd circulated in the announcement. I really liked it actually. The only tiny thought I was having was on the application. I was thinking like incubation, like help, like sort of like as, ideas come through, maybe, incubating those under. So I don't know I got stuck on the word application, but I just thought, we, sort of like as a commons, like incubating the smaller token startups, using the token engineering expertise that we're cultivating.
Interesting. Can you
also the potential, like, Ostrom's principle, skin in the game, sort of bringing back value to the community flow, that as those are incubated through the expertise being culminated, then that value could, revert back, or, so it's sort of like a sustainable economy.
Well, could you do me a favor? It would be great if you could just add that as a comment on that post.
I tried to, okay, yeah, because I was actually gonna, and then it seemed blocked, or I don't know. I'm trying to like, or I had to make my own thread. I didn't want to like make it too big of a deal. That was why I thought I would just jump in the call. But
see, okay, let me.
There's no way just to like reply to it. I have to like make my own thread. But I have no problem doing that if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's maybe you and I just check in real quick if you're having issues with. You're talking about on the forum, right?
I'm talking about the strategic framework.
Yeah, that's up on the. How about you and I can we just circle back just so we can keep this meeting going?
Yeah. Sounds cool.
We can follow up separately. It's great to see you here.
Same. It's good to re-engage.
Nice. Okay, so and Juanca, if you want to take off, no problem. But happy to have you stick around too. Thanks for showing up. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, guys. I was happy to be here in this call, and let's continue in contact and see you later.
Okay. All right. Bye. Thanks. Okay. So for the rest of you, let's dive in. So if able to do this live in the document, that's great. Otherwise, okay, let's just do this real quick. Who flash a emoji if you're planning on doing this live in the document? Okay. If you're planning on just doing this okay, so Joseph, you're going to do it live in the document. Other people, are you going to just do this like someplace else, like in a Google Doc or something like that? Flash, if you're going to do that. Nate, you're going to do that? Okay, Isaac and
I
Barrett.
mean, do you prefer
I'm
it to
sorry.
be
So
in
it's sorry. So it's you asking if we are going to complete this here in Clarity or another document, or how what's the deal?
What I would prefer is if you guys can just work live in this document. Joseph is having some problems getting into it, so let me see if I can work on that. But what would be great is if you can just try to like put together your just in this space right now. We only have a little bit of time, but just start to look at what you've got. This is based on what we talked about last week, the things, your objectives for March, and just start editing right in the doc. And where your name is, like what you're going to be doing in March. And if you can start to try to make this smart, like the specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound, we'll come back. And the goal is by next week we want to have all this stuff done, because that will be okay. So we want to start marching in March. So Joseph, let me see if I can get you. You may be having this maybe access rights, so let me fix that. And then everybody else should be able to jump in and start editing. Okay, Joseph, give it another try. You might have to refresh the page. One other thing I'll just mention is that if you know that you are going to need somebody else's help, go to their little bulleted area and just put, like, you'll see I've got a thing here, support for other projects. So I've got like provide Isaac with strategy support for TEC small grants. So if you know that you're going to need somebody else's help, just go in and ask for that in their section. Nate, I'll just mention one thing. There may be some follow-up on the conviction voting proposal. I don't know if that'll spill into March or not. It might be worth adding that. And one thing, Joseph, this is just a question for you, Nate. You don't need to answer it right now, but I just want to make sure that as we're looking at all this stuff, we're making the right investments, the right investment levels. Like, do we really need videos, at this point to promote this stuff? Like, maybe we do, but I just, in a world of very tight resources, I just would encourage us all to just like really ask the hard questions about exactly what we need.
It's only going to be like a short. It's nothing, and it's nothing over like 10 seconds or 5 seconds. All it is just going to be a video of like a PowerPoint presentation type thing. That's what I mean by a video. It's nothing like elaborate like effects or anything like that. Maybe I should change it to presentation rather than saying video.
Yeah, this is just like a general comment to everybody, really. But I that made me think about it. It's just like, as we're thinking about all of our investments, like, let's just make sure that like we're being.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got about 2 more minutes, and what I would encourage you all to do is try to make a little bit of time over the course of this next, before Wednesday, to come back into this and just clean this up a little bit. Bear and I will be talking about like what's the best way. It's looking like the way that Bear did that in the project's Clarity is going to be, for now, probably the best way for us to be able to keep track of this. But we use the power of Clarity to be able to track this. So Bear and I will be talking about this next week, and then in the next Thursday call, we'll just talk about how we take this stuff that you guys are doing right now and put it into Clarity so that we can track it. And then what we didn't get to this week is the communication priorities. But like, I think a lot of that's going to be driven by the SPI. Well, we'll talk about that next week. It doesn't have to take that long. And then there's a few other things. We'll just roll into that. All right, everybody. We got a lot done today. So thank you. Thanks everybody for their time and engagement. As always, much appreciated. All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
And come tomorrow if you can.
What time?
10 a.m.
Thanks, everyone.
EST.
Okay. All right. See you, everybody.